did this as a meeting format so we can all see and engage with each other, but I'm going to ask that everyone go on mute and we're going to communicate with each other through the chat. As people are coming in, it's really nice to see all of you. My name is Erica and I'm the U.S. Associate Director at IATF. We're joined by our really amazing expert speakers today, Mohammad Darwashe, the Director of Strategy at Givat Haviva, Michal Sella, the Executive Director of Givat Haviva, and Shahira Shalaby, who is both IATF's content expert and field representative and the co-deputy executive director of programs at Abraham Initiatives. So Shahira, many of you have heard speak with our programs many times, is wearing two hats today, but is really going to focus on showcasing some of her experiences and learnings through her work in the field of shared society directly at Abraham Initiative. We've, now as we're a few months into this current crisis, there's really been momentous shifts and trends and developments regarding Jewish-Arab relations in the field of shared society. And while we very much rightly are focused in paying attention and noting all of the things that are going on with the war and Israel's relationships with its neighbors, there really are important and notable dynamics at play within Israel's borders between Jewish and Arab citizens who wake up every day in the same country, figuring out how to go to the same universities and schools and workplaces and shopping centers while we're in a real moment of divisiveness, polarization, and crisis. At the same time, there's also real possibility for figuring out how to navigate this situation together. So I don't want to speak too much because we really have the experts on these issues here. Just to share a little bit about what we're going to do over the next hour together. First, we're going to get a presentation about Givat Haviva's most recent commissioned research on the state of Jewish-Arab relations in Israel right now. And then our speakers are going to reflect and process this research and its implications for the field and what they're seeing, and share a little bit about what civil society is doing right now and looking to do regarding preserving a vision for shared society and Jewish-Arab inclusion and cohesion during this challenging time. So as I mentioned, we're doing this in meeting format, but please stay muted and feel free to use the chat as much as you want. Liron and Michal are also going to be engaging with the chat, so feel free to use your question to put in questions throughout the call. We'll answer clarifying questions as we go, and then we're also going to leave some time at the end for Q&A from all of you. So with that, Mohammad, I'm going to pass it to you to share the most recent research that Givat Haviva has commissioned. Yeah, we'll take it from there. So, Mohammad.
Thank you very much, Erica, and good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not able to share screen and manage the presentation myself, but I will be getting some assistance from some of my friends here. Unfortunately, what we're going to share with you is not the best news we can share. What it looks like is that Jewish-Arab relations in Israel are under severe challenge. We haven't been into this kind of situation, it seems, in many, many years. We commissioned a study by Medgam Institute, which is considered to be probably Israel leading polling agency in the country. We asked some questions that we thought that this specific group might be interested in looking at. Can we move next, please? So it's a study about survey about attitudes of Jewish Arab citizens in Israel. The study is, stands with all of the standards of, being representative sample. Relatively, it's a very big sample. Many respondents from both sides with margin of error of 4%. It was done during the beginning of, as you see, in end of December, beginning of January. So it's still very fresh. 612 Jewish respondents, 401 Jewish respondents, gives us a very good read of both communities. Next, please. So the first question we asked, do you accept or reject the definition of Israel as Jewish and democratic state that provides full equality? I can't see the top where you cut, so please be a bit slow. That provides full equality to all its Jewish and Arab citizens. What we see that among Jews, 61% accept and support this notion, while we only get 39% Arab citizens accepting this notion. Now, how can we read that? What does that mean? It means that the Arab community is pretty much split, 39% support, 39% object. The objection can be translated to the exclusive Jewish nature of the state. The objection could be, and the same thing the other way. While the Jewish community, it seems that 31% only accept the combination of Jewish and democratic nature of the state. This is some kind of reduction in the support in the Jewish community. It means that 61% of the Jewish population probably prioritize or put in hierarchic meaning or status, putting the Jewish nature of the state as above the democratic nature of the state. Next. Okay, then the next question was, do you trust or mistrust? To the Jews, we asked, do you trust or mistrust most Arab citizens of Israel? You see that 63% of Israeli Jews have negative perspective. They say that basically they do not trust Arab citizens. In the Arab community, you see that 29% have an issue of mistrust. Again, it's probably one of the worst indicators. We have a very deep level of mistrust that is developing in both communities, higher than ever before. I'm sorry, it's 50% among Arab citizens that have negative positions versus 63% of Jewish citizens that have negative perspectives about each other. Next. We asked the question, go up, please, one more line. We asked Jewish respondents only, which of the following sentences reflect you best? 19% of Jewish respondents said that the government should not invest in Arab citizens. 35%, 16% had no opinion. 23% said that the state should invest in Arab citizens of Israel. That's only less than Jewish citizens. So if you combine 19% and 23%, that's 42% that basically say that the government should not invest equally among Arab citizens, with only 42% saying that the state should invest whatever is needed to the Arab community in Israel to reduce gaps between Jews and Arabs. So Israeli Jewish society is split basically half and half in its support to equal investment of the government agencies in the Arab community. Next. Also for Jewish respondents only, in your opinion, most Arab citizens of Israel see themselves as part of the Palestinian people, but prefer to integrate as equal citizens in Israel. That's 56% subscribe to that. This is actually a very interesting indication that there's a majority Jewish population that understands that Arab citizens do define themselves as Palestinians. 23% see themselves as part of the Palestinian people and are uninterested in integrating in the state of Israel, which is a negative perspective. More seeing that the Palestinian identity is basically pulling out of Israeli society. 14% agree with the statement that that Arab citizens see themselves as part of the state of Israel and wish to integrate as equal citizens in Israel. Only 14%. Next, please. Now we're moving into questions that relate to October 7th. Have the events of October 7th impacted or not impacted your sense of personal safety? As you can see, 77% of Israeli Jews say that it impacted them to the worse. 62% of Arab citizens say that the events of October 7th have impacted their sense of personal safety to the worse. Next, please. In the wake of the events of October 7th, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the prospects for coexistence between Jews and Arabs, between Jewish and Arab citizens of the State of Israel? You can see that 35% of Israeli Jews are very pessimistic. 37% are somewhat pessimistic. Altogether, that's about 72% of the Israeli Jewish public are very pessimistic. Among Arab citizens, 16% are very pessimistic, and 34% are somewhat pessimistic. That's 50%, 51% of Arab citizens are pessimistic. Next. Have the events of October 7th impacted or not impacted your attitude to Arab citizens of Israel? That's a question we asked to the Jews, and the same question we asked to the Arab citizens if it impacted their attitude towards Jews. We see that 56% of the Israeli Jewish public says that it impacted them negatively, that it changed for the worse. 22% of Arab citizens got impacted negatively. Still, 37% of the Jews did not feel that it were impacted, and 49% of the Arab citizens say that they were not impacted. Very few people say that it impacted them to the better. Only 4% of the Jews say it impacted them for the better, and only 6% of the Arab citizens say that the events of October 7th impacted them for the better, impacted their attitude towards the other for the better. Next, please. Now, we asked the Jews, did the events of October 7th impact or not impact the frequency of your visits to shopping centers or recreational activities in Arab towns? To Arab citizens, the flip side, did the events of October 7th impact or not impact the frequency of your visits to shopping centers or recreational activities in Jewish towns? Basically, seeing the willingness to visit each other. You see that 50% of the Jewish public responded that this is not even relevant. They did not used to visit in before that. That's very severe. Now, the result of the war, that 31% got impacted even more negatively. So in total, about 81% of the Israeli Jewish public are not interested in visiting Arab towns and villages. About 50%, as I said, did not see this as a relevant question before. And now we added 31% that would say that this impacted them, that their visits to these centers have decreased. In the Arab community, 34% say that their visits decreased, and 38% that say that it did not impact them. But also 24% of the Arab citizens did not see that this question is relevant. In total, 58% of Arab citizens are not interested in crossing the line and going to shopping centers in Arab towns and villages, in Jewish towns and villages, and 81% of the Jewish population is not willing to do that. Next, please. To the Jews, we asked, since the events of October 7th, do you feel a difference or not feel a difference regarding a manifestation of hostility from Arabs? 34% of the Jews say that there was an increase in the manifestation of hostilities from the Arab citizens. About 23% of the Arab citizens feel that there was an increase in manifestation of hostilities. But look at the 37% of the amount of Arab citizens that refused to answer. They said they didn't know. It's a sense of fear that we feel exists among Arab citizens in not being even capable to respond and express their opinion. You see very high percentage of Arab citizens refusing to respond to many questions. Most of the cases, it was 24%. In this question, it was 37% that refused to answer this question. Next.
Mohammad, I just it's a little bit hard to see the PDF on the screen, and I know there's a lot more research to discuss here. So I just wanted to note a few things. One, for those who didn't see in the chat, we put a link to this PDF, so you can also follow it on your own computer. And Mohammad, I was curious if you could not to jump in, but if you could share really, in addition to going through the individual slides, what you would identify as 3 or 4 of the biggest takeaways from the research. Is there anything specific you want to point out to us, or that you found particularly interesting, or the biggest things you want to make sure that we understand as we look through this research?
Well, I think that the main two things is that one is the sense of mutual fear and mutual mistrust that has developed, but soon we will see areas which have been harmed less. I mean, all areas of Jewish-Arab relations have been harmed, but there are a couple of areas that have been harmed less. You can skip this one because, as you said, Erica, people can go into the details. We'll skim through some of the slides. We can, and to what extent do you agree or disagree with each of the following? Messages being shared in Hebrew or on Hebrew on social media spread hate primarily against Arab citizens, and the opposite question, you see that each side sees that the other hates them more than what they really feel. There's a sense of exaggerating the hate or the expression of violent language on the other side on social media. Next, please. So far, there have not been clashes. This is very interesting. There have not been clashes between Arab citizens and of Israel with Jews during the course of the war. In your opinion, which of the following best explains the reason why? Now, here you need to see the difference between the perspectives of the Jews and the Arabs. I will choose the far left one. 50% of the Jewish population say that Arab citizens are not basically staging clashes because they're afraid of the police. They're concerned about the police response. While among Arab citizens, if you combine the middle two red lines, 38 plus 17%, that gives you about 55% of Arab citizens say that the real reason is a sense of desire to live in peace and share destiny. The reason for why Arab citizens are not a part of this kind of confrontations and clashes is because of goodwill, while in the Jewish community they attribute that to fear of Arab citizens from the police. Next. Now, next we'll move from this also. This is too much details here. All right, let's wait on this one a little bit. Would you be willing or unwilling for yourself or a member of your close family to have a friendly relationship with Arab citizens of Israel or Jewish citizens of Israel in each of the following areas? What you can see that in the Jewish society and in the Arab society, in personal friendships, the Jewish community is very much in the red. They're not interested in that. Also with children's activities, way to the right, they're not interested in that. What they are interested actually to be involved in, both in the Jewish and the Arab community, there is a willingness today is in the workplaces and in the studying institutions at universities. This is what we call still islands that are still protected. The damage to them has not been done that much. You still have a massive majority on both sides to be engaged in working together and partnering together as individuals, individual willingness to be involved in this. Clearly, among Arab citizens, it's much, much higher. It's about 72%, both in universities and workplace. In the Jewish community, it's about 50%. You see 47% and 53% willingness to partner in workplaces. You can skip this one also. Do you support or oppose the participation of Arab political party in governing coalitions? The reason I wanted to bring this, because in May, when we presented this same question to the Israeli Jewish public, we got 49% of the Israeli Jewish public that was supporting having an Arab political party in a coalition. This has dropped to 21%. In the Arab community, I'm sorry, to 30%, if we combine the last two, 30% of the Jewish public. No, I'm sorry, the greatly supportive is only 9%, yes, and somewhat supportive. It's 30% of the Jewish public supporting that. It's a drop from 49% in May. Among Arab citizens, it's 52% support, and it's a drop from somewhere around 75% support in May. So there is less willingness for political participation. This is what the crisis is doing to the issue of political partnership. Next. These are points that need improvement, but you can you can take out the presentation, Erica.
Really, thank you, Mohammad. I just wanted to say, yeah, Miranda, if you want to take us out, we can move to pinning all of us.
I'll take you out and so move to the discussion. In general, what we're seeing is a deepening trend of lack of trust, deepening trend of fear. It's polarization that is developing. Luckily, till now, this is not expressing itself into clashes, although there's a great deal of fear for clashes. As I said, the Arab citizens attribute the fact that they were not going there to sense of responsibility and the commitment to shared society, while the Jewish community, in the majority of the Jewish community, attribute that to fear of the police response. I will comment on other things after Michal and Shahira also intervene.
Thank you, Mohammad. Really, as I said, we put the research in the chat, and I recommend people who take time to go through it. There's some really detailed, comprehensive data there that as Mohammad was saying, really points to this erosion of trust, particularly among Jewish citizens towards Arab citizens, although certainly in both directions, but also some of these sort of islands of potential and these misunderstandings of each other's intentions that point to some real learning to be done. I want to bring Michal and Shahira into this conversation. Michal, I'll start by asking you, Givat Haviva commissioned this research. What were you trying to understand and discover? And what from the research either particularly surprised you or stood out to you as important in the work that you do?
First of all, thank you for having us, and it's great to see you all. I don't think we were surprised. What we try to do is basically we looked at the other research and surveys that we had about the same topic, and we saw that a lot of the findings were a bit weird, and we felt that maybe there's a fear of the Arab community, of the Arab society, to really answer some of the questions. So we tried to do a research where the Arab citizen don't have to, say if he acknowledge the state, if he stands by Israel, etc., out of fear. But maybe we wanted to see that if we all have some kind of like political or social imagination about the future, to see if, okay, we understand that there's damage, accumulating damage in Arab-Jewish relations, but what about the future? How do we feel about the future? Can we see a future? Do you think, if we think it can develop to a positive way? And I think that beside the 2 points that Mohammad said, and I think they are crucial, the fact that we are all really, really scared, and scared people are more dangerous to each other, and they tend to act in ways that were not their ways before they were so scared. So that's one thing that we need to understand. And the second is that we do not understand each other. We don't understand each other's motives. I don't think that was a surprise. I think that it was a bit, I wouldn't say pessimistic survey, but I think the reality hit us in the face in a way. The only or I think maybe the main positive point is that when we ask people about their imagination about the future, or what kind of interactions are positive interactions in their eyes, we saw that most of the interactions, for instance, in the workplace or educational institutions or social gathering, were seen as positive interactions in both sides, for Jews and Arabs. And that's somehow surprising, or the better, because we did see after the 7th of October a lot of normal interaction that didn't happen anymore. For instance, people who were afraid to go to work or to work together, or could not really speak or talk to their colleagues. We saw in Givat Haviva, we saw teachers, Arab teachers in Jewish institutions, that were not able to go to work, or suddenly the parents of the kids were really afraid of them, although they were teaching their kids for the last, I don't know, 10 years, but still suddenly they were scared of their teachers. So I think it was very positive to see that Givat Haviva is working on interaction, on people to people interactions, and the fact that we now see that people do comprehend the notion that meeting each other and working with each other and speaking to each other can, heal this society. I think that was amazing. The only field where interactions were seen as a negative thing was in politics. So the only field where people said that when Jews and Arabs come together, bad thing happens, is in politics. And that's really interesting, because if you remember, the last government was the first coalition or first government where an Arab party took part of the coalition. And after that happened, and the sky didn't fall, right? Most Jews, like 50-something% of the Jews, were for a coalition with the Arab party. And now it changed. So in that sense, I think we still have a lot of work in the political field, but in other fields, I think this survey kind of gave us hope in Givat Haviva in the kind of work we're doing.
Shahira, I was wondering if you could sort of reflect on your own experiences. What of this research seems to echo the trends and developments that you've been seeing in your work in civil society? What does it look like playing out practically in the daily realities of people?
Okay. Thank you, Erika, very much. Thank you, Michal and Mohammad and everyone. I'd like to add a few main things that I learned from this survey and things that I can see from the field. So I will take you with me to the two levels. First of all, really, I agree with Mohammad that one of the most important things is the way that Arabs see why there are no clashes between Jews and Arabs, because the Jews think that's because Arabs are afraid from the police, and Arabs are thinking that because they really have the willing to live together peacefully with the Jewish neighbors. So this is something that we should take in considerations as practitioners, as activists in the field of shared society. I will go back to this, but this is one of the main things that I wanted to relate to. The second thing that I think it's very important for us to understand that people still believe that in several places, living together, working together is it's a positive thing. It's not only a possible thing, it's also a positive thing. So if we can rely on this and understand how can we build in the future the way that we want to work, and where are the islands that we should invest in. So the third thing I would like to say, and this is something that I think the survey didn't deal with it, is that what's happening in the ground between the two groups, that we can say that the fact that influence the Arab Jewish relationship in Israel, that the Arab public in Israel connect the Arabs in Israel with the Palestinian people, which is real, real. The Palestinians in Israel are part of the Palestinian people in general, but the Jewish public automatically assume that the Arabs in Israel, they support activities against Israel. And adding to this, the fact that Arabs and Jews are closely live together, it may work in two directions. This living may people relate to this in two ways. One way, it's maybe give the people feeling of trust, of familiarity, closeness, of shared responsibility for the space. But on the other hand, it might increases the sense of threat and makes the fear of direct harm to each other is possible. And because in another words, what I can say, because of the shared life in the shared space, each group thinks that the other group carries with itself the potential to harm it, and also have the opportunity to do so because of the physical closeness in the shared space. So so this is something that we take in consideration in any kind of action that we want to take as a activist in the field. the last thing that I would like to say, and I think also Michal related to this, is the political relationship and cooperation between Arabs and Jews. Before this war, and in the shadow of the social protest against the regime coup in Israel and the struggle for democracy in Israel and for building the democratic state, we were thinking as activists in the shared society and the political field, we were thinking about to build the political partnership between Jewish and Arabs, between Arabs and the center left, in order to change the regime in Israel and to build the democratic state that ensure equality for all of its citizens. But today, we are kind of pushed back more than 40 years ago in the terms of building trust between Arabs and Jews. So understanding this reality that carries two main potentials: the potential of continue building the shared society based on the achievements that we built in the shared society field for more than 30 or 40 years. And it also carries the potential of a escalation. Okay, so what do we work and what should we do in order to help people to rebuild trust, rebuild the relationships, recreate the way that they want to work together and live together. And this is things maybe in the discussion we can say more about it.
Thank you, Shahira. I mean, really hearing your insights and reflections and personal perspectives on some of that research, I think you summarized what's come up a lot. Is this data is really rich, and it shows both the real challenges and potential of this close proximity between Jewish and Arab citizens, where there's institutions, there's opportunities for positive interaction and sort of ways to dispel these misconceptions. But when the fear and tension is so high and people sometimes sort of assume the worst of each other, that also creates conditions for escalation and for conditions to sort of to get worse in the relationship. That's sort of what I've seen highlighted by the three of you. I wanted to ask, as we move more into discussion, looking at this data and the discussion we had, what work do you see needing to be done in civil society to preserve the field of shared society and to strengthen Jewish-Arab relations? What are your organizations doing, and where would you like to see the field move? Mohammad, maybe I'll pass it back to you to kick us off.
Thank you, Erica, and also thanks to Shahira and Michal for responding. You know, what we wanted with this survey is to assess the situation, you know, check how deep the water is. And as all of the organizations active in this field, we needed to know what is the situation, so we know what needs to happen. So this is actually a preparation for a work plan. One thing that is clear is that to work on binational encounters for youth today is very problematic. What you know is you need a great deal of uninational work with the Jews separately, work with the Arabs separately, make sure, and also do some kind of damage control. We are in the middle of a crisis that is presenting new challenges to us, creating a new reality to us. Business can't be as usual. We can't continue assuming that projects and programs need to continue as they were being done until October 6th. As of October 7th, we have a changing reality. We have a moving target, and we need to adapt a lot of our programs for that. We need to focus more on actually three main areas. One is the employment field, where you're getting a lot of the results of this mutual mistrust happening. A lot of people are being expelled from work or are advised not to come to work in order to reduce tension, or they are not being given offered jobs. Unemployment among Arab citizens have increased in the last 3 months from 5% to 16%. That's more than 70,000 new Arab citizens that are now unemployed and cannot bring in income to their homes. That will increase poverty, that will increase crime in the Arab community dramatically. The second arena is the academic arena, universities. A lot of tension is that exists there, and the tension might explode this coming Sunday, when most colleges and universities are going to go back to physical physical studies. Until now, most of them are doing Zoom meetings, and everything that can be done theoretically was done via Zoom. This coming Sunday, all of them are coming for physical interaction. That means that we need to be present there. We need to come with intervention projects and moods. And as an organization, as Givat Haviva, we are actually in the heart of the matter. Just today, Michal and I spent a day at Netanya College, working with the senior staff and senior management, administration, and professors to basically deal with them of how are you going to deal with the return of the students, and what kind of scenarios do we expect might happen, and how to handle these scenarios. There are 36 academic institutions in Israel. We need to split the work. Not all the organizations can cover 36 institutions. We need to split the work among the different organizations so that we do cover as a field, we do cover all of the academic institutions. Another arena which we feel, there's a public mood which is losing faith in the field of shared society, and we need to give them back faith. The conference we held on the 9th of January, the Givat Haviva conference, was actually to show that we are not orphans in this field. We have Jewish and Arab leaders that are still believing in shared society. That's why we got President Herzog to be our keynote speaker. That's why we got Mansour Abbas to be also keynote speaker. Benny Gantz, the Minister of Interior from Shas, to show that we still have a good, willing, high-level leadership that is supporting this work, and that we're not just doing marginal type of, we're not Don Quixotes fighting against the wind. But we have some significant leaders, Benny Gantz as the one potentially being the next prime minister, coming with, I would say, the best speech ever that any mainstream Jewish leader has ever given in support of shared society. And he chose to do it at a time in which he could lose some political support. He said, "I'm not talking to my base. I'm talking what needs to be talked about shared society." And he gave a wonderful message. Again, it's on our website. You can read his speech. It was the best message that could have come, which means that we need to echo those sounds with additional leaders. The public needs to hear this from more people. We need to have media presence, high-profile media presence. This is not the time for our organizations to duck and wait for that tsunami to basically wash us all. This is the time to actually come with higher strength and highlight the fields that need to be protected. And I would say the fields that need to be protected today, and that's the last sentence I'll say now, are the fields in which we have accumulated successes. That's in academia, that's in the workplaces, and among the good willing people from let's call them the political echelon, to bring them to speak today, and the academia to bring them to speak today in support of shared society.
Thank you, Mohammad. Shahira, can you sort of respond and share your thoughts on the same question? Where is the field of shared society today in response to what's going on? And where do you think it should be heading?
Okay, first of all, really, I totally agree with Mohammad with all the areas that he described and mentioned, but I would like to add a few more things that it was really important for us as the shared society organization, as political and social activists in the field. At the beginning of the war, the most important thing was for us is to keep people safe inside Israel, because in each conflict we understand that we might have four conflict areas in Israel, one in the south, one in the north, one in East Jerusalem, and the third one, and the fourth one is inside Israel, especially in the mixed cities and mixed living spaces. So for us, it was very important to ensure that people are not going to fight in the street and people are not going to attack each other. And we wanted to be sure that the police is not going to attack people who are going to demonstrate. So luckily and unluckily, luckily because we didn't have these clashes in the streets, but unluckily people couldn't demonstrate because they couldn't express their feelings, they couldn't express their political ideas. and not in the media, and not in public, and not in their workspaces. So, but in the same time, this reality that people really kept safeness in the field helped us to continue to do our work as a shared society organization, because we weren't busy with trying to prevent escalation in the street and clashes between Arabs and Jews. And this has happened because people in the different places, Arabs and Jewish, where they organized, they immediately organized themselves in groups, and they call them Shomrei HaShutfut, the partnership keepers in the different places and in the mixed cities and the mixed regions. And they decided to work with I call them the mid leadership. It means the local leaderships, the local leaders in the especially in the towns and the cities of Israel. It means that the local authorities, and they also work with the police in order to prevent a escalation and clashes and violence. And this is something that, for me, as an activist, it's a new field. It's a new field that for the first time, one of the times that really I understand how much it is important to work and to empower the local leadership in the towns and in the cities, and to increase the relationship and to empower the relationship between the local activists and the leaders of the authorities. It means that the municipalities and the local authorities in the cities and in the town, because usually we were thinking about civil society organization working with the government. Okay, we're thinking about local organization and the government, and usually we didn't cooperate strongly with the local authorities. And I think because also of 3 years, last 3 years of that, we don't feel with the absence of the government, the people decided that they should do something for their local life in the local authorities in the localities that they live. So the basic of new organizations and new activities and new networks and new movements that are happening in the ground now, these are for me the new activists. These are the new leaders that we should also involve them in any plan that we plan for the future in order to rebuild and rebuild the relationship between Jews and Arabs in the state of Israel, because they are the ones that are doing the work and they're living the life. It means that they live together and they should be and they're the ones who's dealing with the clashes and with working together and will build relationships. So I'm thinking about new groups of people that we should involve them in the future. I don't have a vivid picture now who should they be, but we are building together the new activism, the new movement of the new leaders in the field.
Thank you, Shahira. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, so please start typing your questions into the chat, and we'll take questions from there. If you don't want to type your question out to the full chat, you can also send it direct message your question to me. I think some of the main things I heard come out in both of what you said is focusing on these islands of potential and success, academia and campuses, workplaces, sort of the localization of shared society work and looking really within individual and distinct communities, and also a question about what can be done in the political sphere. The real challenges that we saw in the data and the opportunity from working with leadership. Michal, is there anything that you want to add to what Mohammad and Shahira said, either things that you see similarly or differently?
Yeah, I just want to add, of course, I agree with Mohammad and Shahira. I just want to add that something about the general role of civil society organizations, and especially us, Jewish and Arab organizations working for shared society. Like the first class that we learn in political science class, right, is that the modern state is like the strongest political mechanism, although it's transparent. And I think maybe it's hard to understand, but it's important to understand that in Israel on October 7th, this state that we all imagined around us, we didn't see it, right? It's transparent, but we imagined that it exists. We just understood that it doesn't. okay? It does not exist. The state or the army will not come and assist you. They will not be there to, to save your lives. And also after the horrible disaster, the state will not be there to take care of you, to take care of society, okay? The ministers and prime minister will not come and meet you, even if, hundreds of people were taken hostages. They will not visit the kibbutzim. They will not visit Sderot. They will not allocate the funds to take care of the hundreds of thousands of people that were that lost their homes, right? And I think in this horrible gap, the only mechanism that actually worked was civil society organizations. The same goes for our organizations, the shared society organizations. Givat Haviva, for instance, we kept doing shared society work, but we also opened our campus. We have a campus with like dormitories and a dining hall, etc. We opened our campus for 300 evacuees that came and joined our campus and lived in this Jewish and Arab campus, although they were saved on October 7th, and they were all traumatized, and it was very complicated. But I think we all did whatever we can to cover up for the dysfunctional state that we're living in, and I think it's a very important role.
Michal, you actually segued really nicely into a question that we have. You mentioned budgets, and in response to some of the war, there have been significant budget cuts. How is that going to be affecting the work potentially, both of Givat Haviva and Abraham initiatives and of the field at large? I'll also note that we recently prepared a paper on budget cuts for people who are unfamiliar about this or want to learn more. So we'll drop a link to that into the chat as well. Shahira, you want to start us off on this question about budget cuts?
Yeah, of course, we are. I can say about my organization, if I'm talking about the Ibrahim initiatives, we don't have governmental budget. We don't receive governmental budget for our activities in purpose. Okay, we have a purpose of this because we want to be free. We want to have the freedom to bring our voices and our methodology, our ways to work in the field in a free way. But we can understand that during the last 5 years, even more 10 years, the government, especially with the GR, the Government Resolution 550, parts of this resolution were allocating budget to support the activity of shared society programs, especially in the mixed cities and other places. And they were also willing to support the shared learning programs and other activities that really helps Arabs and Jews to build a better and a good relationship. And also, the government were supporting Arabs to continue to go to the academia, to find good jobs in the labor market in Israel and other programs. And of course, cutting the budget is going to influence the society. Maybe not directly my organization, but the way that we work with the field will be affected because some universities won't have the budget to support the Arab students in order to complete their studies. Some of the workplaces that they have now crisis in the relationship, they won't be able to support the Arab workers and other kinds of influence that's going to happen, cutting the budget. But in general, cutting the budget also for all these activities, especially for the Arab society, is going to decrease the development and the progress that the Arab society achieved during the few years, and it might affect negatively the Arab society. It will bring for more violence, for more crime, as Mohammad mentioned before. And maybe if this reality will happen, it will really affect the way that the organization it means the energy of the organization and the field of work that we are going to be involved in.
I can add that except that we also have like a huge cut in the education ministry. So we're about 1 billion shekel is going to be cut from the education budget, and that's going to affect educational programs for shared society In Givat Haviva, we have, I think we're the largest organization dealing with youth encounters in Israel. In the last year, we got 20% of the budget. So there's like 18 organizations that get budget from the Ministry of Education. We get 20% of the budget. And I'm sure it's going to be smaller this year. And it's a very, very, it's a very humble budget already. So basically, the Ministry of Education is saying that they're not going to invest funds in Jewish and Arab relations, although they are saying that it's like the largest threat on the Israeli society. But they're not going to engage with it.
If I might add to this and continue to connect to Michal's ideas, I think it's we are how can in another way to think about it, how cutting the budget really influence our work in the field, because it means that the organization should do more, should do the things that the government should do. We pushed the government for over the 30 past years. We pushed the government to take responsibility in some of the fields that they were in the field, in the yard of the organization, such like education, shared education. And now they are just cutting the budget for the things that they took responsibility for. And we're thinking, are we going to take it back? Are we going to do this work? It seems that yes, we are doing more work in the field. We are supporting more organizations. We are working with more partners, with more people in the field, because the government is not taking responsibility in order to correct the relationship, to build the trust between Arabs and Jews, and other things. I'm not talking here, we are dealing only with the relationship between Arabs and Jews, but it's related to other fields also.
One focus that we saw a lot of in the first few days and month was the issue of sort of fake news and social media and disinformation and lack of understanding of what was happening, particularly in things relating to fear-mongering around Jewish-Arab relations in Israel. We sort of saw perhaps some of that play out in the data, showing that people don't understand the intentions of the behaviors of the other sometimes. I was wondering if you've already had any lessons learned about, shaping and navigating public discourse around Jewish-Arab relations in Israel and public perceptions.
Should I start?
Yeah, please.
So the level of fake news is beyond just the media. The fake news is also reflecting itself in reporting of certain employees against their fellow employees. I got the call today from a friend that many of you might know. Ghada Zobi is the editor of Bukra. She's one of the leading people in the field of shared society. The story of her sister, who is a nurse at Rambam Hospital. She's been working there for Hanin. She's been working there for 33 years as a nurse. About 2.5 months ago, one of her fellow workers, one of her team members reported her as supporter of terrorism for one simple crime she committed. She changed her profile into black. That's the only crime. She put a black screen to change her profile, and her fellow Jewish worker translated that as mourning the killing of Palestinian terrorists. That was the language of the complaint. She was arrested for 5 days and then released without being charged of any crime. The police didn't find any crime, any real fact behind this. But she was also kicked out from her work temporarily to calm the situation in the hospital. 2.5 months later, she's not allowed to go back to her work. This is the case with hundreds of cases of Arab employees and hundreds of cases of Arab students that have been charged with claims against them of siding with the terror organizations just for either putting posts of destruction in Gaza with some prayer or daring to express their identity as Palestinian, and that is escalated to charges of supporting terror in Israel. So it's not just fake news that shows that things are worse than they are, but this has been now, and Shahira and Michal talked about the government. We are under the worst government that you can dream of against the concept of shared society. It couldn't have been worse government. Maybe there will be in the future, but we haven't had a worse government since the last 75 years that is feeding the concept of mutual fear and mutual mistrust that we saw in the poll. That is being fed by certain ministers in government that do want to bring Jewish-Arab relations to the point of boiling and maybe breaking it into physical confrontations, because they will score political points from it. There are certain political parties in Israel made their careers, and they became with this high level of representation because they were part of an incitement machine that polarized society, that brought about the confrontations in May 21. And I think they succeeded, and they learned from that success that if you can make it worse, maybe it will be better for those political parties. So the fake news is not just fake news that we see, being happening here and there. The threats of Minister Ben-Gvir that there will be second Shomer Chomot, May 21 events. It is actually trying to feed the sense of mutual fear and mistrust that might be the good platform for physical confrontation. We are not in the safe zone yet.
Thank you, Mohammad. It's really challenging and intense to navigate this moment for many of the reasons that you mentioned and the different perspectives that people bring and have on the situation. We really appreciate you sharing yours. I'm noting that we're close to time. I do want to give Shahira and Michal an opportunity to respond to the question of what do you do about these media perceptions? What do we do about sort of these misunderstandings and intentionally created or not? And then we'll close out. So just to say, in case people do need to log off right at 1, we'll stay on for another 10-15 minutes for anyone who wants to stay with us. But thank you very much for joining. We heard a lot about the challenges, as was written here, that's sobering, but also a lot about where there really is potential and the work that's being done. And it's great to have the opportunity here today to lift up those voices and to raise that work. We're going to be adding a few links to resources, to recent papers that we put out post October 7th, to the listservs of the organizations involved in this call today, and a curated library of resources about October 7th and its aftermath for folks who are working with younger learners or people who know less and want some easy resources to bring into your classrooms and your communities and learning. And stay in touch. We're going to do lots more of these types of programs and keep creating these resources. For those who can stay, I see a lot of you are still with us. Thank you. I want to pass it to Shahira and Michal to talk about what you're seeing that can be done and should be done about these misintentioned and misunderstandings in discourse, and how to help shape public perspectives.
Shahira, you want to start? Okay. So I think there are two things that we can do at Givat Haviva. First of all, we need to do the digital work, right? We need to talk to our followers. We post all the time about reality. Also, you need to understand that there's a huge difference between the Jewish citizens of Israel and the Arab citizens of Israel, because Jews in Israel usually consume Hebrew news outlets. And in Hebrew, you cannot see anything, almost anything, regarding Gaza, okay? The Arab citizens can consume news in Hebrew and in Arabic. So they are much more informed about the overall situation. And this situation makes it really, really difficult to level up the amount of information that Jews and Arabs in Israel had about the overall situation and their ability to hold a normal conversation with each other, right? Especially online. So one thing that we can do is we can inform our followers and we can have campaigns, and we're doing it also in the project that Shahira mentioned that that Givat has with Abraham initiatives and the Tzedek centers. And another thing that we're doing on the educational level is that we believe that working with teachers and principals is very, very important in these times, because they are the one that, you know, meeting the younger generation in classrooms, in the schools, and they can talk to them about what really is happening, because most of the young people do not even consume news outlets. They get all their information from social media. And that's where the alternative reality is taking place, right? So what we found, and I think it was very encouraging, that we did a lot of teacher training over Zoom in the first few weeks of the war, and hundreds of teachers, Jews and Arabs, joined us. So a lot of teachers just didn't know how to cope with their students, and it was our way to get through them to thousands of students and young people, and to try to try to teach them about the reality and about how they should be cautious about the information that they're getting.
So I can relate to this. I will add with from Michal's and Mohammed's notes that there are a few main things that we are doing as organizations in order to deal with the fake. We call it fake news. So one thing that we really trained. I think I don't want to say hundreds, but a group of activists we work in our program. We work with an organization that's called Fake Reporters, and they trained the activists in the field to linater, how to say linater, to mentor, yeah,
to monitor, to
monitor the social media in their places, because the idea is to work locally, to think nationally, but to work locally, because we can deal with all kinds of fake news. We wanted the places, the localities to be safe. So we trained a group of activists from our groups in the cities and in different places to watch the social media in their towns, and to decide and to take actions. I will give you one example of the actions that the activists took in Haifa. And one example, that in one of the coffee shops, one of the girls, the ladies, it's a neighborhood. It's a coffee shop in a small neighborhood that people of the street really go every day and drink their coffee. And one day, one of the ladies came to the coffee, and she was in the military, and she came with the soldier clothes. I don't know how to say it in English, the military clothes. And one of the Arab, she's Jewish, and one of the Arab customers in the coffee shops asked her to leave, because she shouldn't come with the military clothes to the coffee shop. And this lady went and just published this in her Facebook. And, so many extreme groups started to connect her and wanted to make a balagan in the street, because the owner of the coffee shop is an Arab. So this group of people, that it wasn't fake, it was real, but they decided they don't want this event to make the crisis in Haifa. So they went to the lady, and they went to the coffee shops, and they just made like a reconciliation between both of them. And they asked her to remove the post from the Facebook, and she canceled an interview to a newspaper. So because they asked her, what do you want? Do you really want the clashes in the street? She said, no, I like this coffee shop. I like the owner of the coffee shop. And then this is the way that so many activists work, because some of the fake news, they were really very general, it was very national, but some of the fake news were bringing fake news about things that's happening here in your neighborhood. It means that we saw 4 Arabs that's throwing stones on Jews. If you want to protect your neighbor, you should go out. So these activists were there in order to save and to import people. And what was important that these activists worked with the local authorities. They were in connections with the different departments of the local authority, that sometimes the mayor himself or herself, they also publish that this is fake. Please don't follow this news. We went there, we sent our workers to check it, and this was fake. This is what's happened there. And sometimes people brought pictures from the field where people were saying there are clashes, there are fights, there are stones, there are shooting each other. They brought pictures and videos and saying nothing is happening there. Please be calm. Don't leave your houses. Don't come. Don't fight with each other. So this is one of the ways that we were working. And the other things that it's very important, so one of the things that we are doing in the organization, we work with young people from high school. We bring Arab speakers to talk with Jewish students, and we bring our Jewish speakers to talk with Arab students. And we have, do you know this the game, Slicha, excuse me for asking? So we just bring a speaker that you can ask him or her whatever you want. Just ask, do you want to kill us? Do you want to throw us to the sea? Do you want to? So because we really would like people to feel the trust, because when they have a personal connection to someone, they know that they are dealing with a human being and not dealing with a group of people that are going to kill you. So a lot of work, really, we're doing a lot of work now, and we will continue doing this work. It's gonna take us, I think, more than a year, even 2 years, to go back to the point before to the October the 6th, when Miranda were in Haifa and we were planning our trip to the mountains.
Thank you,
If
Shahira.
I may follow on what Shahira just last said,
Just
you know,
the last sentence or two so we can close this out. Please,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would call it the healing capacity of the field of shared society. After October 2000 clashes, it took almost 10 years for Jewish-Arab relations to heal. There was an article by Professor Sami Smuha. He called it the lost decade in Jewish-Arab relations. After May 21 clashes, there was a feeling that it took us about a year and a half to fix relations and come back to some kind of normalcy in Jewish-Arab relations. So our healing capacity was much, much faster. Unfortunately, we got hit very quickly, and we weren't able to complete the healing process completely. But what we see from the poll that we and the survey is that our work actually pays. The fact that we invested a lot in academia and in the workplaces during the last maybe 15 years as an industry, as the field of shared society, these are the places that are still managing to hold on, and they're not collapsing even at crisis time. Other areas, other fields of interaction in Jewish-Arab relations are pretty much melting down. But the areas which there was a lot of work and where also the theory of change is mutual interests, that area is holding on much, much better than other areas. So maybe we need to invest in this arena in the future more than what we've invested. But our work is cut out for us. We have a lot of work to do now.
Thank you. It's really that was a great summary of, I think, the journey we went on together over the last hour and 10 minutes or so. I feel so fortunate working in this field that I get exposure to the work that all of you are doing every day. And I'm glad that we had an opportunity to bring some exposure further to the American Jewish community that I think really is a deep interest in engaging and being part of that healing process and being part of this work that's being done. As we mentioned, we put in a bunch of links to join our listservs, the listservs of Abraham Initiatives, Givat, Haviva, some of the recent resources that we've put out. So please do stay in touch, follow up with any of us with any questions you may have. And we look forward to seeing you on another call soon, hopefully in better days. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Mohammad, Michal, Shahira, especially so late at night. Good to see you.